It had been 4 days since he was prevented from leaving town. K4 and 3 didn't mind so much as he had nowhere to go in a hurry, but it seemed arbitrary that he was kept here. No one would answer his questions, and the locals kept their distance. With the exception of the small group in front of him, who have been following him around like hungry dogs. They refused to answer any of his questions, but they seem to be keeping a close eye on him. It seems as though he's a lot more of a prisoner than he thought. Thankfully for him, he's in no hurry. He's been told that he'll be called upon shortly to answer some questions. That was 2 days ago. K4N3 begins to suspect that he's being kept here much longer than he needs to be on purpose. While he has no reason to assume that there's something nefarious going on, he thinks that he might have stepped into something he wasn't supposed to. He's decided that he'll wait one more day. If he's not allowed to leave at that point, he'll break his way out. One way or another, he needs to get on with his own investigation. If they're not willing to tell him what's going on here, he has no reason to stay. The United Cities has turned out to be a bust. These people seem to only care about themselves and their own bureaucracy. Perhaps the politics here are getting in the way of the bigger picture, and that's not something he'll stand for. K4N3 suspects that the bureaucracy of this world is going to soon become a burden on him, one that's going to take him down and slow his progress to figuring out what's going on. He may have to cut ties with all these bureaucrats sooner rather than later. Most of the locals here in Heng claim to be traders, masters of their art, but they're very close-knit, and they keep their conversations very close to their chest. He's unable to pry any information out of them, and that concerns him. If this is one of the trading hubs of the world, you'd expect there to be a lot more conversation, a lot more rumors. Things might be worse than he thought. Perhaps the humans and the other mortals are so segregated that they're unwilling to tell anyone, such as himself, any information that could be life-saving. K4N3 is beginning to get the sense that he's on his own. Perhaps the skeletons of this world truly do need a leader, someone that will pull them away from the humans, the Shek, the Hivers, and anyone else that may just abuse them for their immortal nature. Perhaps it's time for K4N3 to step up and be that person. The following day, K4N3 decides to head to the police station and demand answers as to why he's not allowed to leave town. The police chief is quick to explain that there have been some high-level incidences with the trading guild, and they suspected that he might be a part of it, based on the questions he was asking. But the investigation has turned up nothing, and he's free to go, though he will be escorted out of town to ensure there's no other incidences. He apologizes for the inconvenience and tells him to be on his way. The men escorting K4N3 out of town seem to have no sympathy for his cause or his situation. They simply want to get him as far away from town as possible and then leave him there. And in all honesty, this is fine for K4N3. So far he's been unimpressed with the humans, and the sooner he leaves, the better for him. The long walk back to the Black Desert City is one that K4N3 is becoming familiar with. He enjoys it. It gives him time to think. Gives him time to begin to rationalize this world. So far everything he's seen has led him to believe that there is change that's needed, and unfortunately it seems like no one's willing to put forth that change, which leaves it to him. He still struggles. His memory is faded. There are many things that he can't remember of his past, and he knows that there's something important he's supposed to know. What information lies within his memory banks about this book he holds, this tome of science, mathematics, engineering? He's unsure. Of his two possessions, his sword and his book, he knows that the book is far more valuable. That he's certain of. He genuinely hopes that Quin has some information for him. He hopes that this trip was not in vain, and it was not a waste of time. The people of the United Cities seem to have no care for the skeletons. They didn't seem to dislike them, but there didn't seem to be any love for them. This world is strange to him. In fact, it's probably strange for most people. The people don't seem to want to talk about daily life. In fact, most people live as though they could die at any moment. And from what he has seen, that's true. K4N3 is unsure of what his next move is going to be. Depending on what Quin has to say, he may have goals laid out before him, or he may have to find his own way in the world. Back at the Black Desert City, he heard rumors of other skeletons that had awoken similar to him, but no one would tell him any answers until this mission was done. Hopefully they weren't just taking advantage of him. If there are others like him, perhaps they have other answers, other information. They could be missing pieces of a puzzle that he's trying to complete. In any case, the trip back to the Black Desert City is simple, fairly straightforward, and there's no danger posed to him. Perhaps it's time for him just to enjoy the walk. Enjoy the fact that he's alive once more. On the way through the deserts, he's already seen many people lose their lives. He should appreciate what he has, for it may be taken from him at any time. Several days pass before K4N3 is able to get back to the Black Desert City. It's given him plenty of time to think of questions to ask Quin. He needs to make sure he asks the right questions and not waste his own time and Quin's. Quin is very appreciative of the effort K4 and 3 went to bring the shipment back to his store. He's been looking forward to it for quite some time, and the delay is very inconvenient for him. He's happy to answer any questions K4 and 3 has, and if he doesn't know the answer, he's willing to tell him who might know the answer. Once the business is taken care of, the rest of the evening is spent answering questions. K4 and 3 learns a lot about the world. He learns about the different nations vying for power. He learns about several great wars that have happened. It's a shame, he thinks. The mortals have had so many chances to make this world a better place, and none of them have seized the opportunity. He's learned of something that's very important. He's unable to fully process it, but he at least has something to go off of now. According to Quin, there have been 4 others that have woken, very similar to K4 and 3. There may be more, but he knows of 4 for sure. Down in the Shek Kingdom, in the city of Quin, the first skeleton appeared. His name was 94T3. He was the first of all of them to awaken, and he immediately raised questions and concerns for the Shek people. Many of them wanted him removed from the town, thinking that he may be a doomsayer, or someone that might bring the wrath of some of the other nations upon them. Quin is very quick to point out that the town of Quin is a relatively peaceful location these days. If you were to begin gathering other pieces of information, that is a good place to start. While he's down in that part of the world, he might as well stop by the city of Admeg as well, the capital of the Shek. That is where one other skeleton has arisen, by the name K3-3P. This skeleton has kept himself quiet. He's kept to himself, and he doesn't seem to cause any problems, similar to the other one. In Admeg, he seems to just sit and watch, similar to K4 and 3. Perhaps he knows something, for he refuses to leave town. In fact, he rarely leaves the little hovel he stays in. In the northern part of the world, back in the United Cities territory, in the town of Brink, there's a skeleton by the designation 71F3. He has went out of his way to help people. Unlike the others who seem to be concerned about their own well-being, he seems to go out of his way to help others, even if it's as simple as carrying groceries home for an elderly person. This particular skeleton has asked very few questions about the world, but he sees that he's needed, and so he helps. Of course, with someone like that, there was bound to be someone like K1L7 in Heft. In the United Cities capital, the skeleton rose and immediately began helping others enslave the population. The guards found him annihilating a group of bandits, and when he was done, he turned his sword on the guards. Thankfully, the guards were able to disarm him and take him down before he caused too much damage to the city. After imprisoning him, they confiscated everything he had on him and had a long, drawn-out conversation about how someone of his skill and caliber could do the United Cities good. And so currently he's an agent for the United Cities, working with the slavers on retrieving escaped slaves. Quin suggests he hunt down this skeleton last. He seems dangerous, and approaching him unprepared may prove disastrous to the entire mission. Quin really wants K4 and 3 to succeed. He wants to see where this will go, and so he offers a few words of advice. Gear up and expect everything to try and kill you, he says to K4 and 3. Understand that this world is dangerous and hostile. Nothing is your friend. The Black Desert City can be your home if you need it to be, but understand that we are an exiled people. No one else comes here, but perhaps that's a good thing. Talking into the early hours of the day, Quin and K4 and 3 have a genuine heart-to-heart conversation about one another. It's been a long time since a businessman opened up to anybody, but there's something about K4 and 3. His personality, his disposition, his demeanor, everything about him makes Quin want to talk to him. There's a few things that he tells K4 and 3 that he's never told anybody else. The life of a businessman is very fulfilling, but he honestly missed the days of being a warrior. He tells K4 and 3 that once, long ago, several centuries at this point, he fought in great battles alongside other skeletons. And even though the great and mighty shopkeeper that he is has retired, he does yearn for some change. Being in exile here in the Black Desert City has put him in a very unique position. Yes, he gains a ton of information, but what can he really do with it, aside tell it to others? This is the first time that K4 and 3 speaks about potentially gathering others to his cause. He's already seen that this world seems to ignore skeletons or put them down. He wants them to rise up. They shouldn't be servants. They could be friends, companions, but never servants. As the conversation comes to a close, K4 and 3 is left with one idea. It's something that Quin put into his head. If K4 and 3 does find something out, if this is something big, these skeletons awakening, there's a good chance that K4 and 3 is supposed to lead them. His curiosity, his rationale, his intelligence seem to suggest he's a leader, or was a leader in the past. Perhaps it's time to be one once more. Giving K4 and 3 a map down to the Shek Kingdom and up north to United Cities, he bids K4 and 3 a farewell. He hopes that he sees him again soon, and hopes that he learns something useful, and hopes that his cause is just and worth following. For if it is, he just might bring about the change that this world so desperately needs. And that's where we're going to leave it for today. So, we now have our big quest, big story arc kind of laid out for us. We are going to go ahead and track down these 4 mysterious skeletons that have arisen just like us. At the same time, we will explore the world a little bit, and we will attempt to bring these skeletons above their current station as essentially exiles or lower class citizens of every empire. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.